down there, 11 miles away. And today, it's back here, receded 11 miles. The glacier is retreating, but it's also thinning at the same time. It's like air being let out of a balloon. You can see what's called the trim line. It's the high water mark of the glacier in 1984. That vertical change is the height of the Empire State Building.
That was a clip from the Sundance Award-winning documentary Chasing Ice. Joining us now, James Baylog, the founder of Extreme Ice Survey and the photographer whose story is chronicled in the documentary. Also joining us, Jeff Orlowski, the film's director. I have to tell you, when I see clips like this, I haven't seen the entire documentary, it's amazing to me that so many people in this country, in the United States of America, know more about the moon than they do about the Arctic and the effects of nature and weather in the Arctic and on us.
That's an interesting analogy, and you're right. I mean, it's actually, the Arctic is not that far away from us. You know, if you fly up the east coast of the United States, you're in Greenland in 4.5 hours. So it's close up there. You know, the ice ages are up there 4.5 hours away by air. And yeah, there's a lot of ice and there's a lot of change going on right now.
The pictures are dramatic as we look at some of them right now. Give us a sense. A few years back, I traveled for us to the Northwest Passage when it was finally now, it had thawed out entirely, you know, and you could traverse that area. How dramatic is the shift that's taking place right now? We hear this in terms of a lot of hyperbole, but in real terms, how dramatic is the real shift that's taking place there?
In real terms, we're in the midst of a really monumental change in the basic character of these northern latitudes. The Arctic sea ice is indeed retreating ever closer to disappearing, at least by the end of each summer. And we have tremendous deflation of the mountain glaciers as well as these big ice sheets happening right now.
We installed these cameras 5 years ago, kind of having a guess as to what would happen, but the amount of change that we've seen on the glaciers has just been remarkable.
How many cameras, how long were you filming, the degree of difficulty involved, even the weather?
We started in 2007. Right now, today, there are 34 time-lapse cameras all around the Arctic. Greenland, Iceland, Alaska, Glacier National Park, and they've maintained a 5-year-long record. There's a photograph taken every half hour of daylight right now, collecting all these images and building this evidence
how
of how the glaciers are changing.
How do they survive the weather for that long?
That's the tough part.
Yeah, that's one of the tough parts. I mean, we're dealing with temperatures minus 30, minus 40 for months at a time, really high winds. Often these cameras are getting pounded by 100-mile-an-hour plus winds. And it was a big project to try and engineer this stuff to make it work and keep our little robot eyes out there alive. I think of them as my little R2-D2s watching the world while I'm down here with you.
I have to give James credit because he basically invented this camera system. This technology didn't exist to accomplish this project, and he had to build this custom power supply, custom timers to control the cameras because nothing existed that could withstand those conditions.
So if some moron like me comes up to you and you explain you've got all these cameras up there, and then they ask you the basic question, why? What's the answer? Why? Why are you doing this?
Why are we doing this? Well, everybody keeps asking us, why does ice matter? Why does it matter that glaciers are melting? We saw just a couple weeks ago the consequences of that ice melt. I mean, the scientists have been telling us for decades that because of climate change, because of glaciers melting, because of rising sea levels, we're going to see more events like Sandy. So this is the trajectory that we're on. We're trying to show people, you know, this isn't a faraway concept. It's really hard to visualize climate change because it's an invisible subject. It's literally how carbon dioxide is changing in the air, how temperature is changing, and you can't see that. So we were able to try to visualize it through the film.
You know, James, you mentioned with the clip that we came in with, and speak to it if you could again, the size, the scale of the ice. It's just enormous.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling really when you hang around those landscapes. I mean, you feel this tremendous weight of these moving land masses. It's not like anything else we know down in this part of the world. The closest thing to that feeling is probably when you're by a huge river like the Mississippi or the Colorado, and you feel all of that water moving along. Well, this is orders of magnitude more substantial than those big rivers feel. And you know, to be clear, some of these glaciers are retreating in part because of local glacier dynamics, like that Columbia Glacier shot we started with, but also they're retreating because of climate change.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. The documentary, Chasing Ice, playing now in select cities. James Baylog, Jeff Orlowski, thanks very much. This is
thank you so
really,
much.
Thank you.
really fascinating.
It goes wider to Lincoln Center this weekend. It's a beautiful theater. We're just so thrilled.
Lincoln Center this weekend. Get there. Looking ahead to tomorrow, from the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Saxby Chambliss of Georgia. Also, Bradley Cooper is going to be here, and award-winning filmmaker Ken Burns with his new documentary, The Dust Bowl, which is another amazing thing. We're going to be right back.